Hey, what's happening, family? It's your man, Mark Black. You know what it is. Welcome to your Sucka-Free Saturday, where we keep it all ADOS all the time and absolutely 100% completely sucker-free for all you motherfuckers out there. So, first of all, family, if you come in and you haven't hit the hater button or the like button, you're failing, right? Let YouTube know that this is content that you want to see. And that's how you do that, right? So make sure you hit that thumbs up or thumbs down button. Also, too, just sidebar before we get started, remember, I've got merchandise available. I've got this ADOS cup here with the ADOS logo on it. Make sure you pick this up, though, soonest if you want one, because they soon will be coming down off the site. As I mentioned the last broadcast that I did, there's a brother named Jason. Jason, shout out to you. What up, Zulu? Let me shout everybody out first. Zulu, Midtown, DJ, brother Chris, Noel in the house, Miss Denny, mwah, right? Tazaba, shalom, sister, shalom, right? Let me say, let's see, I am six. Welcome, LaShawn, peace to you. Glad to see you all in the broadcast live and in living motherfucking ADOS color. All right? So, make sure, though, that you pick up one of these if you want one. There's my man, Double C's. Welcome, esteemed brother, because those will soon be coming off the merch site. I have a new logo, as you all have seen, right? And I'm going to have new merchandise, Angry Black Sheep merchandise that you can purchase that supports my work. Also, family, there's only been one or two of you who have taken advantage of the opportunity to purchase some literature discussing topics such as slavery, such as convict leasing, Jim Crow, redlining, and all of that. Remember, ground yourselves in the data. There's links in the description field to books via Amazon that you can purchase that help to support my channel, right? Every purchase goes to help support my work, right? Oh, and also, too, family, we did break 1,000, as you well know. Hats off to all of you. Let's make that push for 2,500. Make sure that you're sharing these videos and getting people an opportunity to have this information in front of them so that we can increase our herd, right? The herd of angry black sheep, okay? And yes, Noel, I've been okay, right? Last couple of days have been kind of rough. I mentioned to a few of you that Miss Denny had to go into the doctor. She's okay, by the way, family. She's all right. As you can see, she's in the chat. But there was some things going on. We were concerned, and we ended up being at the hospital for hours. You know how it be, right? You know what I'm saying? Although they did treat our sister right, right? They gave her the good, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? She was on swerve like, damn, I'm feeling kind of nice right now. You know what I'm saying? Right? So they did her right. Okay. But just between that, real life errands, things like that, I've missed a couple of morning Joes. Y'all gonna have to stall me out. You know, life intrudes, but know that I always want to be talking to you. And I ask any about my family, they be like, damn, will you stop complaining that you didn't do Morning Joe this morning? But I'll be like, but I know, but I was supposed to get it done, you know, right? So, yeah, family, I appreciate everybody's support and understanding when times, you know, get rough or whatever the case may be. I try to announce when I'm not doing Morning Joes and things like that. Sometimes I'm able to get it in. Sometimes I'm not, but know that even when I don't do it, I want to, okay? And just, you know, show me a little grace because it's definitely appreciated. All right. Yeah, absolutely, Noel. Family first, right? Family first. I want to shout out to KT, ADOS, right? Looks like that I have a new yep, KT ADOS is the newest subscriber, right? So I want to give a shout out to KT. What else do I want to say real quick? I just want to make sure I do all my house cleaning right at the beginning. I think we good, family. So, without further ado, we're going to talk today about rebuttals to the folks that try to argue with us about the need for reparations, right? I saw some of you in the chat talking about your advocacy, your personal advocacy, and the challenges that you have been facing with having to address different arguments with folk and so on and so forth, right? And as your brother, right, one of the things that I've made a commitment to do is to help provide you with the weapons and the armor you need to be able to go out here and be just as effective an advocate, just as effective of a voice as you may perceive me to be, right? My job is not to lead you. My job is to walk with you as your brother, as one who loves you, as a fighter and an advocate for ADOS folk. My job is to help arm you and give you the tools and resources you need for effective advocacy for this position. Right? Because like Paul said, other groups have been compensated. Why not ADOS? We're going to have a discussion about that, Paul. On one of my Sucka-Free Saturdays, I intend to address some of the reasons why our demand is so off-putting, right? It causes so much rancor and conflict with people. We're going to talk about that, Paul, so don't worry. Stay tuned, all right? If you haven't subscribed, please make sure you do so, okay? Because we will be talking about that. Now, let me first lay out the top three objections that we hear as ADOS advocates when we talk about reparations. The first, and these are in no particular order, by the way, family. These are just the top three. The first objection that we hear is that none of us were slaves, right? And it's a true fact. I think the last one of us as ADOS who was actually enslaved died somewhere back in the 60s. I think the very last person who was an actual slave, right, who had been born under slavery was back in the 60s, which again, wasn't that fucking long ago, to be honest. Let's keep it a buck. That was not forever ago, okay? That was what, basically 50 years ago? You feel me? So we're not that far away from actually having living family members who were enslaved, right? So that's objection number one. You weren't slaves. Why do America owe you anything? The second objection you hear is that, so what do you want us to do? Just cut you checks, right? Thank you, SM Bonner. By the way, peace. Welcome to the broadcast, SM Bonner and producer. Glad to see you, right? What do you want us to do? Just pay you, just cut you checks, right? So they object to the fact that we're asking for actual remuneration, right? That's an objection. And they say that they want to offer all these other things and call them reparations, right? So they object to the fact that we're asking for actual cash remuneration, right? And remediation. And the third objection that we hear is sort of a reversal of the first, right? So in the first objection, they say we were not personally affected by slavery, right? In this last objection, they say my family wasn't here. My family immigrated to this country. We was immigrants. We never owned slaves, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. And they say, so why then should we be responsible for paying you anything? So those are the three objections. Okay. Those are the top three. And I'll address them in roughly the same order that I announced them. All right. So the first objection being that none of us are directly harmed by slavery. None of us were actually enslaved. That if reparations are due, they could only be justly paid to the actual enslaved people, right? So not to their descendants, not to ADOS, but to the actual people who were the victims of enslavement. Okay, S.M. Bonner said, my great-great-grandmother was born in 1916 in Mobile, Alabama. She knew former slaves. They were our family members. Facts. My great-great-grandfather was born in Henderson, Texas in 1883. I'm quite certain, as I've traced my family tree back, that his direct ancestors were also enslaved, right? So let's keep it a buck, right? We all can have some personal contact, either through family heritage and lineage, right, with someone who was a victim of enslavement. But here's something to note, right? Let's take a look at this piece by piece. Reparations can only be paid to the victims of enslavement. So this objection does not deny that reparations was owed. You see what I'm saying? Family, I often say that if you listen to people, they will tell you how to beat them, right? They will tell you how to defeat them. But we have to be a little bit dispassionate, right? We have to make sure we don't get in our feelings and we actually listen to what it is that they're saying. This objection does not deny, in the main, that slavery is something that warrants remediation, restoration, and repair. Okay? What they're saying is that America failed to pay the people that it was owed to, and thus America no longer owes the debt. Right? I'm certain that you can see the obvious logical fallacies involved in this whole damn thing, right? First of all, I want to talk about inheritance, right? Because inheritance truly is the great injustice that we have suffered in America. Inheritance is how the wealth generated from our ancestors, right? The victims of enslavement, was how they were able to maintain that wealth. That wealth was passed on multi-generationally, right? Each new generation. And doing the math, if you assume that each generation constitutes 25 years, there were 12 generations of enslaved former Africans in the United States of America. 12 generations. They themselves were passed on to other family members of slaveholders as property. They were traded, bought, and sold, right? The victims of enslavement were also used as securities, right? Remember, we were talking about the economics about tangibles and derivatives, right? A tangible is a resource, right? It is land, crops, animals, gold, etc. But you can derive a value based off of that underlying resource and create a financial vehicle based off of that tangible item. And that creation of that new financial vehicle is called a derivative. Okay? In the United States, the bodies of our ancestors, the victims of enslavement, were used to create derivative instruments that also generated wealth. We talk a lot about the denial of the 40 acres and a mule, right? The denial of us of a land base, and that's hugely important. We talk about the money that was generated through the direct labor of our ancestors, the victims of enslavement. But we never talk about all that much the vehicles, the financial vehicles that were also created for the generation of wealth that had nothing to do with the actual direct labor of our ancestors. The insurance industry in the United States was built on slavery. The first insurers in this country, as well as over in like in the UK and Spain and all of that, were insuring slave cargoes. They were insuring ships in the triangular trade. In the book, The Half Has Never Been Told, he lays out the creation of derivative financial instruments that were monetized on the flesh, the bodies of our ancestors themselves, right? They would trade these financial instruments amongst each other and weigh the value of these financial instruments off of the future labor and the future gains from that labor of our ancestors. So the futures markets in this country were a direct derivative of the labor of the slaves. Wall Street in New York City was a place where slaves were traded. One of the largest plantations in America was actually in the North. It was a breeding plantation. 22,000 slaves at one point was on various breeding plantations, you know what I'm saying, giving birth to new generations of slaves. And that would be that's one plantation. There were multiple breeding plantations. That's not to mention what I'm going to refer to non-pejoratively as small-scale stock management, okay? For those of you who are familiar with agriculture, if you have a small holding, right, you're a yeoman, okay? You have a small hold, a little personal farm. On your farm, yes, I actually did know that. Thank you for the information, though. See, share that information in the chat, family. We can all talk about this shit. But when you have a small hold, a small farm of your own, when you have animals who are your stock animals, say you have cows, when you breed your cows, even if it's only for your own personal use or whatever the case may be, that's called stock management, right? When you cull the weak ones, right? You take, that rooster that just drives everybody up the wall and ain't mating with no hens and his ass going to the pot, stock management. When you sell off one of the calves of your cows that just gave birth, stock management, right? So we talk about the breeding plantations, but even on a small scale, there was stock management of our ancestors, encouragements for them to breed with each other to make more property to pass on to the next generation. The injustice came in multi-generationally. And no one said to any of these people, well, you may have owned these slaves in this generation, but now that your ancestor is now passed on to the sweet by and by, those people are free. That's not how that worked. They were property, they were chattel. So they were able to be transferred like any other animal stock to the next generation. Shout out to Dr. Lely and Code Ref. Welcome to the broadcast, fam. Now, we talked about the inheritance of the enslavers. Well, what was the inheritance of the enslaved? The denial of access to their own personal liberty, the denial of access to adequate resources to maintain, sustain, and enhance their own existence, the denial of autonomy, both personal as well as collective, the denial of capital to develop their own institutions, their own systems, to develop their own ways of being and their own ways of living, and so on and so forth. And just like a ripple effect from the plantations outward, these derivative instruments created for the creation of wealth were able to be passed on from generation to generation to generation. The denial of freedom, the denial of personal and collective autonomy, the denial of the opportunity to create culture, literature, architecture, and things that endure. All of those things that are a function of having access to liberty and wealth were also the inheritance of those born to our ancestors. America inherited the wealth generated, and we inherited the failure. We inherited the loss. And that has been multi-generational. If it is legitimate for America to inherit the wealth generated by the victims of enslavement, then it is just as righteous for us to demand that that wealth be returned to us. Simply because you stole my car 20 years ago doesn't get you off from under the fact that my car was stolen. You need to return my car. It was worse for us because we were the car. Our ancestors were the vehicle that was driven to generate everything in this country. Everything. We have just as much a right to demand back what was taken, what was stolen from us, as they have to claim that they get to keep it. Michael said, death doesn't erase debt. The creditors attach your estate. Facts. Facts. Because that gets into the second objection. The second objection is basically one where they try to say that we don't have a claim, that because we were not the ones that were harmed directly, that we don't have a claim. And that since the people that did have a claim are no longer able to claim it, that the claim is just exhausted. That's not true. That's not true. Now, there are people that would try to argue that, fine, go after the actual families, go after the corporations and the businesses, and so on and so forth. And there are people, ADOS people, who have been making pushes in that direction. And I salute them. The issue with that is that this institution, this peculiar institution known as slavery, was created, sanctioned, defended, and supported by the United States government. Even before there was an America, the colonial governments supported slavery. After the inception of America, America itself kept slavery legal and supported it. Right? Through the use of gunships to protect trading lanes and so on and so forth. This issue don't have anything necessarily to do with Georgetown, even though we know now that Georgetown definitely benefited from the labor of victims of enslavement. Should we hold Georgetown to task? Of course we should. But Georgetown only would have been able to do what Georgetown was able to do as long as it had the protection, as long as it had the imprimatur of the United States government in some way, shape, or fashion, of its state government. This is the several United States. And in concert, these several states legally sanctioned the enslavement of our ancestors. And so, because it was them who legally sanctioned it, who gave it the protection and the possibility for it to occur, why go after Georgetown? Why go after Etna when you can eliminate the middleman and go straight to the motherfucking source? You go straight to the root. We are radical in our claim. Radical means root. We're not trying to waste our time as ADOS people flip-flopping and discussing and sitting down at the table with motherfucking has-beens, middlemen, so on and so forth. We are going straight to the source. Just like in the Matrix, Neo flew his ass right to the machine city and went straight to the source. That's what we have to do. The United States government, the source, the font from whom all blessings flow to every free American, is our target. There's another thing that I want to mention. In law, there is a concept known as unjust enrichment. Let me run it down for you what this concept is. If I break into, say, August, by the way, shout out August, glad to see you, welcome to the broadcast. If I break into August's house and I steal August's computer, okay? And with August's computer, I'm able to start a website, sell merchandise, market some shit, make some money, okay? The concept of unjust enrichment means that at such time as I'm caught and held accountable for the original crime, I'm not only liable for replacing August's computer, but all of the resources generated from the theft of August's computer is also forfeit. Those monies, that wealth, was generated by crime, by injustice. And so I not only lose the capability to utilize August's computer, meaning I have to replace it or give it back or make remuneration or something and so forth, right? But all of the wealth generated by the use of August's computer is also forfeit. I don't get to keep that money. I use the term fruit of a poison tree. America is a living example of a whole host of people benefiting from fruit from poison trees. About 4.5 million of them as of emancipation in 1865. This country lives, breathes, exists, maintains its status in the world through unjust enrichment. The enslavement of our ancestors was morally dubious, ethically shameful, and truth be told, absolutely criminal under any type of real justice standard you could ever possibly come up with. So the return, the restoration of our position, our wealth position as a collective doesn't just derive from the value, say, of our ancestors' flesh or the calculations of their labor at a certain labor rate over 240 some odd years, right? No. See, if we only allowed America to be held to account, responsible for paying for our ancestors' used and abused flesh, for calculating the value and sale of cotton crops, sugar crops, tobacco crops, and other agricultural products, this country would be getting off light. Because a true justice claim from ADOS people also includes all of the wealth generated from those criminal, immoral, and unethical acts. The unjust enrichment of an entire nation. What's the value of that? Everybody throws around all these numbers. But when you start to look at this thing and you see it for the truth of what it is, you realize that it's damn nearly incalculable. Damn nearly. Oh, don't get me wrong. We can come up with a number. But anything less than that number is this country getting off light. Show enough. By the way, Show enough, special shout out to you. Thank you for purchasing a cup. I saw that. Also, by the way, family, congratulate Show enough. Show enough was the winner of the drawing that we held during my 1,000 Angry Black Sheep broadcast. I made sure to break bread with Show enough, right? So I hope you were pleased with that. It was my pleasure and my honor to go ahead and do that for you. And I'm definitely glad to see you back. Michael said, I am not a beggar. I'm a bill collector. Facts. And after today, when these idiots come at you with these bullshit ass arguments about the fact that you were not harmed in any way, shape, or fashion by the institution of slavery and all of that, I hope that you now have enough ammunition to be able to address them. Unjust enrichment denies the continued use of the fruits, the wealths generated from criminal activity. This country doesn't just owe us for the value of our ancestors' bodies. It doesn't just owe us for the value of the crops and the work and the labor. So you come up with some hourly rate and calculate that over a certain number of years or whatever. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. From the very first immoral taking of the life, liberty, property, and labor of an enslaved former African to the last, every bit of wealth generated from that enterprise is also forfeit. Many of you watch courtroom dramas and shit like that. And you always love it at the end when the defense makes this impassioned plea before the jury to find the plaintiff to be liable, and then they come back with the verdict of liable, right? The person is found to be liable for the criminal or civil acts that they committed. And then the judge will read off the award, and the judge will say, we find you X number of dollars. And now you're getting hypey, you're rubbing your hands together because you know what comes next. And we award X number of millions of dollars in punitive damages. What are punitive damages, family? For those of you who love your courtroom dramas, what are punitive damages? Punitive damages is nothing more than the understanding that unjust enrichment is in and of itself a wrongness and it is to be punished. Punitive means to punish. The return of what was owed, that's a given. That's a given, right? So you're found liable, that you are going to have to return what you owe. That's a given. Punitive damages is a punishment. It is designed to disincentivize said behavior in the future. It is designed for one thing, to punish the defendant for willfully being liable for the acts that they committed. So you see, family, when we start talking about numbers, oh, there's so much more that goes into it than what we have even been thinking. How can we, citizens of this country, how can we ensure that we disincentivize the United States of America from ever again indulging in such heinous behavior, such criminal behavior as the enslavement of our ancestors, if not through some sort of punitive damages? How? Because this isn't one of the top three. But one of the objections that we hear even from so-called ADOS people themselves, from people who are us, that'll say, if they pay reparations, it'll bankrupt the country. I say, so fucking what? Now, of course, that's not true. That's not true. You want to talk about a stimulus package? You want to talk about stimulating the economy, getting things cracking again, having the financial markets head up? One of the fastest and easiest ways this country could do it and also seal a breach that has been going on for 400 years is to address the remediation, the restoration, and the repair of the American descendants of slaves. Because you see, family, despite what many of my white fellow citizens have been told, despite what many of you hear from so-called Pan-Africanists or black nationalists, if you're a member of the Angry Black Sheep, I'm assuming that all you want to be is just a motherfucking American. You let me know if I'm wrong. Pop in the goddamn chat if you want to be something other than an American. If you have an interest in being somewhere else, doing something else other than being here, go on. I won't jump on you. Your man Mark Black simply wants to be a citizen in its fullest expression in the nation that my ancestors helped build. I don't give a fuck about going to Russia or going to motherfucking Nigeria. I go to visit. I would think it would be dope to go see Africa. I'm a motherfucking American. You know, waving the good old red, white, and blue. This my country. This my home. I don't have no motherfucking where else I, first of all, can go, really. And secondly, no other place I'd rather be. All these motherfuckers trying to tell us that we somehow wrong for embracing our citizenship and fighting for the fullest expression of our citizenship while they scrappling they traitorous mercenary ass to come over here and take advantage of it. This is my motherfucking house. I'm not familiar with what goes on in Tanzania per se. I mean, I study geopolitics and shit, but I'm not intimately familiar with what's going on over there. I'm interested because I'm a studious individual. But the concerns of my heart, the worries and the stresses of my daily life affect me here in the United States of America. And I would argue that the vast majority of ADOS people feel the same as me. Dr. Lely mentioned she wants to be a citizen of the world and have a residence in Chile and all that other shit. Cool. I ain't hating. Right? You do you. You do you. But the vast majority of us don't have aspirations to do nothing but just wake up in the morning and live a regular ass American ass life. That's it. We want the same dreams, the same concerns, the same issues as every other American. We want to be able to choose whether to roll over or roll out. We want to be able to choose between D and R, seeing as how that's our only fucking options, right? We want to choose, Tide over, whatever the other soaps is and shit. You feel me? My point is that we want to be and have the same thing as any other American does. Now, take this American people. We are American. Thus the term American descendants of slavery. And restore to us what has been denied us for the last 400 years, and watch how this country is stimulated. Watch a people that have been consistently denied every aspect of citizenship, education, safe places to live, clean water to drink, protection from people that would do them harm, and so on and so forth. Pay us our due and watch the ripple effect of this newly empowered people on the entirety of the whole of the United States. You want to talk about a motherfucking stimulus package? Take 39 million formerly disenfranchised, formerly humiliated, formerly broken ADOS folk and give them the capability to be able to acquire Americanness in its fullness, and watch how this country soars. Watch the stock markets blow the fuck up. Watch all of it. You see, you and I have just as much of a claim on this country as our ancestors did. That's the greatest open secret of the United States of America, is that slavery never ended, debt peonage never ended, convict leasing never ended, separate but equal, i.e. Plessy v. Ferguson, aka Jim Crow, never ended. The denial of our civil rights never ended. Even with the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act in 1964 and all this other shit, none of that has stopped. None of that has stopped. Corlena said, I want land for ADOS and annual payouts. I hear you. There's a myriad of ways we can talk about them paying their due. See, those people who try to tell you that you have no direct claim, they are committing a fallacy where they're basically taking all of the existing ADOS people in America out of history. They're treating us ahistorically. They're saying, sure, all this other shit happened. It just didn't happen to you. Jim Crow happened. Yo folks went through pure hell. By the way, I want to go ahead and give a quick shout out to Herman. I'm not going to use your full government name, but thank you for the Cash App. They want to say that Jim Crow occurred, slavery occurred, convict leasing occurred, debt peonage occurred. They don't deny, they cannot deny that these things happened. But they tried to place them in the past and make us today exist outside of history. They tell us that slavery ended in 1865. No, it didn't. Slavery is still legal in the United States if you are convicted of a crime by due process of law. Everybody should know this by now. Seriously, if you ADOS and you don't understand that, you got bigger problems than your brother Mark Black can help you out with. If me saying slavery is still legal is controversial to you, you need to go back under that motherfucking rock you've been living under. That's just facts. Right? The police come, get your black ass right now, take you to jail, lock you up, throw a whole heap and stack of bullshit ass charges at you that you can't defend against, and then come at you with a plea saying you looking at 30, but we'll give you 2 years. You only have to do 1 and a year paper. And you take the deal because you don't want to be locked up for 30 years, guess what? You just made yourself a slave. And that shit's legal. That is legal under this system. Every day, you got brothers and sisters who are being put into slavery. Every single day. Every single day. They just don't call them slaves. You know what they call them? They call them criminals. They call them thugs. They call them hood rats. They're getting locked up every day, being re-enslaved on the daily. And that has been going on since the 13th Amendment was passed by this country in 1866 under the administration of the radical Republicans under Thaddeus Stevens. Facts. You have slaves in the United States. They are called convicts, prisoners, inmates, criminals. Nah, let's stop putting all these motherfucking little weasel words, all these little euphemisms on them. They're slaves. People complain in jail that they get paid pennies per hour to work. Technically speaking, the state don't have to pay them shit. If that ain't slavery, I don't know what is. And if you don't work, they can sanction you. They can put you in situations like solitary confinement, where if left in there long enough, you start to have psychological effects such as dissociative disorder, PTSD, and so on and so forth. Oh, if they want your labor, they're going to get it up out you. Slavery not dead. Convict leasing was alleged to have occurred primarily in the South, roughly at the end of Reconstruction around 1877 or so, through the 1930s. But convict leasing still exists. Everywhere in this country, slaves, also known as inmates, convicts, felons, prisoners, criminals, perform at labor for companies like Microsoft, for companies like Victoria's Secret, JCPenney, and so on and so forth. Sure enough, thank you. Peace and the utmost of sanctity, righteousness, and justice for Albert Woodfox. 43 years they kept this brother in isolation. Y'all remember that movie Castaway with Tom Hanks, where he was trapped on that desert island? And this motherfucker started having a relationship with a goddamn soccer ball. Or volleyball. Yes, thank you, Miss Denny. A volleyball. Called it Wilson, remember? Can you imagine taking a creature like us, who has such a deep-seated need for human contact and interaction that without it, many of us die, and locking them in essentially what constitutes a tomb of living death for 43 motherfucking years? Can you imagine the psychological trauma that brother's been through? The hell, the mental hell that brother existed in? If that shit legal, that was able to be done, and nobody gave a fuck. Like, nobody thought anything strange. Right? Nobody thought anything weird about it. We got Max and Supermax, and probably soon we'll have Supermax prisons where we lock motherfuckers in smaller and smaller holes for longer and longer terms. And that's cool. That's considered justice in this goddamn country. And the shit legal. But convict leasing is not dead. If you're in the federal system, you work for companies that develop products like fire control systems for military weapons, uniforms, and other military equipment. You do call center shit. Some places have full-on agricultural farms that they work on. Look at Angola. Angola has been a prison right? A prison. And strangely enough, a working motherfucking farm at the same time. Now, how the fuck does that game go? But convict leasing is supposed to be dead, right? Last time I checked, they got ADOS folk in Angola. They got ADOS folk in Leavenworth. Right? So how is convict leasing gone? When they still farming out your labor to private entities and companies who make millions, if not billions of dollars a year in profit off your brothers and sisters' labor. So we've established that slavery is not dead. We've established that convict leasing is not dead. The other day, during my broadcast and discussion about child support, we established clearly that debt peonage is not dead. My labor as somebody who owes child support does not belong to me. It belongs to the state. And it will be that way until I'm either able to clear the debt or I'm dead. So debt peonage still exists. Oh, but what about Jim Crow? I mean, niggas ain't having to ride in the back of the bus and shit no more, you know what I'm saying, and so on and so forth. Nope. Separate but equal is still firmly and fully in effect. When's the last time any of you been to a school? When's the last time any of you went to a school? Those of you who live in predominantly black neighborhoods, when's the last time you went to a school? More importantly, when was the last time you went to a school and took a look at the conditions in your children's schools? When's the last time that you picked up one of your children's school books and thumbed through that motherfucker? If and when your children actually had school books. Brown versus Board of Education in 1954 was a lawsuit brought that was argued before the Supreme Court that Plessy v. Ferguson was a de facto fiction. That while schools were separate, they were definitely not equal. And Brown v. Board argued that black students, ADOS students, should have access to the same resources, the same funding, the same pedagogical materials, the same teaching didactics, and so on and so forth as every other student in the United States. To put this in a little bit of perspective, today is my mother's birthday. Shout out to you, little fat. You know I love you with my whole heart. My mother is 65 years old today. She was born in 1954. How is it that after the ruling in Brown versus Board of Education 65 years ago, we still have schools where our children go that are hot when it's hot outside and cold when it's cold outside? You want to talk about like programs like art, music, so on and so forth? Shit don't exist in our schools. Like producer said, how many of our schools even have a functioning swimming pool? Our schools and education is still separate and still unequal as a motherfucker. So, is Jim Crow really dead? Has Plessy v. Ferguson really been overturned? Right, Code Ref. White folks saw black folk and did what we have now documented as white flight. They left the cities in droves and they went out to the suburbs. And then when they stopped basically redlining, they still do it informally today, by the way, right? Because realtors will still show black families to neighborhoods that have a more mixed environment rather than a neighborhood that might have more whites in it. Right, so redlining is not dead either. Isn't it funny, people? They keep trying to fucking tell us that all this shit is historical. That yes, all of these injustices occurred, but that's over now. Prove it. Prove it. We've clearly established slavery is not over, and it's legal still. They just changed the name of slaves. They don't call you slaves. They call you convict, inmate, criminal, felon, etc. We've already established that debt peonage is still in play under the auspices of child support. We've already established that convict leasing, the use of convict labor to benefit private companies and individuals, still exists. We've also established that even though Plessy v. Ferguson was supposed to have been overturned by the Supreme Court in 1954 with the ruling in Brown versus Board of Education, that our schools and many other institutions where we predominate are still separate and still unequal. We've established that due to white flight and redlining, and now informal redlining, that even when we qualify to live in certain types of neighborhoods, certain types of environments, we're steered away from those areas. And we still consistently pay higher rates for home loans, even when we have the same credit worthiness as any other American. White folks took off, went out to the suburbs. So in the 70s, in the 80s, when black folks started to get a tiny little piece of this motherfucker, and we started moving out to the suburbs, now they got a whole new motherfucking genre of neighborhood called the exurbs. Moving out to the suburbs away from the niggas wasn't enough. They moved out to the exurbs. Ex-urban. They just dip. Now you got all these channels on YouTube with white folks talking about homesteading and raising chickens and this, that, and the third. Them motherfuckers will run out to the wilderness rather than to provide any fucking resources to actually perform any goddamn labor that might in some way benefit us. But white folks flipped the script on us. Because like Double C said, Brother Cease said, now they trying to move back into the city and using the mechanism of gentrification, run us the fuck out of the cities. So they abandoned the cities. They took all of the resources with them, dilapidated the tax base to the point where New York declared bankruptcy back in the 70s. These motherfuckers couldn't even afford to pick up garbage. They left us in hellholes, right? President Trump talks about shithole countries. How many shitholes has America created? They dipped out. Completely devastated the motherfucking tax base. They was the only ones with the resources rather than put us on so that we could begin to get to a point where we could sustain a city if we needed to. Right? Rather than just go ahead and give us our due so that even if they weren't around, we'd still be doing all right. They took off. Fuck them niggas. I'm gone. But then they got hip. We'll let it run down to nothing. We'll let that contagion to wealth be concentrated in the cities. With the amazing closeness of infrastructure, with communities that you can see, that you can walk to and be a part of, where your nearest neighbor isn't 50 miles up the road. Your nearest neighbor is right next door. We'll let it go to nothing. We'll let it go to nothing, to the value of absolute shit. And then, with the money that we were able to harness using the New Deal, the Works Progress Administration, the Civilian Conservation Corps, FHA, Fannie Mae, Fannie Mac, so on and so forth, through the GI Bill, through VA home loans, when affirmative action was white. We're going to come back in there now that it ain't worth shit and get it for a song. Family, if you were a writer, an author, and you wanted to write a book of a story of absolute multi-generational fuckery, all you'd have to do is call it A People's History of the United States. Shout out to Howard Zinn. Because that book is nothing but a story of hundreds of years of fuckery, with the focus of the fuckery being one group, one people, one, you and I. From our ancestors' time through today, there is a clear continuity of all of the crimes that have been committed, still being committed today, with the legal sanction of the United States government and its wholly owned subsidiaries like Florida, Texas, California, New York, Maryland, and so on and so forth. When they try to tell you that you have not been directly harmed by enslavement, I don't have to go all the way back to my ancestors back in the 1800s. I can. I absolutely can. All I have to do, though, is make a lateral move to my baby brother Thomas. May he rest. A legal slave, a felon, a multiple time felon. I don't have to go all the way back in history to show the harm, the devastation of convict leasing and enslavement to my family. My brother shot himself in the head on my mother's couch and was a direct victim of legal enslavement, of convict leasing. Today, not 60 years ago, not 150 years ago, not 300 years ago, today. I'm certain that many of you, as ADOS people, can share in my experience. I'm with you, Martin. Cut the motherfucking check. You want to have a meeting, United States government? Fine. Get some of our best and brightest brothers like Dr. Darity. Shout out to Dr. Sandy Darity, William Sandy Darity. Great scholar, great man. Shout out to his wife and his partner. By the way, they got a new book coming out next year in October. And October 2020 can't come fast enough. Have them get into a room, give you the numbers, the raw fucking numbers, and then cut the motherfucking checks. We don't need no motherfucking discussion about the historical injustices. These injustices that we face as ADOS people are not historical. It is current fucking events. It's the 6 o'clock news when they deign to report on it and act like an actual impartial media source. I Am Sixth. I think the name of the book is going to be something about equal wealth in the 21st century or something like that. Dr. Darity is probably the foremost scholar on reparations that we have as ADOS people. Him and his wife have done a great deal of research, published papers, legwork. There's actually a link in the description field of my video here of a paper done by Dr. Darity called 40 Acres and a Mule in the 21st Century. And I would recommend, it's a great read. I would recommend strongly that you read it. It's absolutely free. You don't have to pay anything for it. That link to that information is right there in the description field for you, along with other free resources too as well. Lastly, but not least, so that you can go and enjoy the rest of your weekend, family. Thank you all for the love and support. By the way, if you think anything that I'm saying is salient, it's important, it's worth something, go ahead and click one of the links to support the channel. I'm not going to beg you, and I'm not trying to press you, but it's definitely appreciated. The last argument is that my family wasn't here. We never owned no slaves. My great-grandfather came through Ellis Island in 1910 from Eastern Europe. Got off the boat, didn't have a dollar to his name. Didn't even speak the language. But he worked hard and was able to build something for his family. So why do I owe you anything? My family never profited or benefited from slavery. That argument sounds strangely seductive. I know very, very smart ADOS folk who stumble over that banal, inane objection. Because the response to that objection is so painfully simple that it's not even funny. Not even funny. Your instantaneous, without thinking, unconscious response to such a bullshit statement should be in the form of a question. Let's do some Alex Trebek Jeopardy type shit. So why the fuck did your family come here in the first place? The floor is yours, you punk motherfucker. Why did your family come here in the first place? Think about this, right? Of all the nations on the planet Earth that some dirt farming Polish motherfucker could have came to or went to, right? Could have went to Argentina, right, and been a gaucho. Could have went to another nation in Europe some motherfucking where. Right? Could have went to Belize. Could have took their ass to Australia. Of all the countries on the planet Earth that this poor ass, low life peasant scum from Europe could have went, they chose this one. Why? Why did you come here? Why did they choose this country? Of all the places in the world. If you were of Dutch descent, you could have went to South Africa. Isn't that where they have the Afrikaner peoples today? If you were Belgian, a dirt farming ass Belgian, you could have went to Congo. Right? It used to be ruled by King Leopold II, the Congo Free State. Right? So all these places in the motherfucking world that this motherfucker could have chose to go. They came here. Why? The reason why, family, that this is such a strong rebuttal to those bastards is because every single thing that they name, every reason that they would name for why their ancestor came to America explains exactly what you've been denied as an American. This is an argument that is a slam fucking dunk. Of all the objections you will ever hear as an ADOS advocate, when you hear this one, you should smile. You should be like, oh shit, time to eat. This one is a slam fucking dunk. Every reason why these bastards came here in the first place was because they would have access to what was denied you. Simple. Simple. Simple as fuck. Well, my grandfather wasn't really able to, make inroads in his country because he was very poor. And so he came here because here there were opportunities to, acquire land and capital. How? How was there in America the opportunity to acquire land and capital that your ancestor didn't have in his home country, in Italy as a peasant, in Poland as a peasant, in Germany as a fucking peasant? What happened here that made the acquisition of capital, land, and resources so easy that even a non-native, non-English speaking peasant could show up from the shores of West Asia and have a shot? What was it that occurred here? What made America a place where anybody anywhere else in that same condition wouldn't even be able to go there, but they could come here, where they would have access to land, access to capital, access to infrastructure, access to protection and defense, access to government, right? Because a lot of those countries back in the day in West Asia, aka Europe, were monarchies and oligarchies and plutocracies and motherfucking autarchs and goddamn tyrants and so on and so forth, wearing a bunch of iron crosses and this, that, and the third, having dukes and earls and counts and viscounts. So what was unique about the United States? What happened here that a bastard who never had a hope of being anything more than a dirt farming fucking peon peasant in his home country could have a hope of coming here and, in a sense, becoming royalty of his own? I like asking people questions. Socrates was known for asking questions. I like asking people questions. You want to come and ask me, why do you owe me? I got a bunch of questions for your ass. What was it that drove your ancestor to come here to my country in the first motherfucking place? What was it that occurred here that made him think a peon, right? A nobody. Somebody who was the descendant of the same dirt farming motherfuckers that had existed in the little feudalist patch of West Asia that he comes from for the last 500 years. What was it that happened here What conditions existed here, and how did those conditions arise to where even somebody like that could have the hope of not only coming here and maybe making a small modicum of degree of success for himself, but could actually have a chance at becoming modern day royalty himself? What was it about this country? What happened here? When they come at you with this bullshit objection, start asking questions back. Don't be afraid of them. Don't be afraid to come off acting like, you know what I'm saying? Like, well, you know, that's a good ass point. They didn't own slaves. What are we going to do? You know exactly what to do. Start asking them motherfuckers questions. Because if you ask and you listen, they will make your argument for you. They will make your argument for you. Capitalism and Slavery is a fantastic book. I actually intend to make it one of the books available in the description field of the video for you to purchase. Again, every purchase of a book through the links on my channel support my channel. It's definitely appreciated. You see, family, one of the things that this country has tried really hard to do was to make you, ADOS people, afraid to ask questions. Because they know that once we start asking questions, we're going to start receiving answers. And like Yeshua said, you will know the truth, and the truth will make you free. This country, America, these several states, the United States of America, is deathly afraid of ADOS people actually asking questions. They don't have a problem with you protesting. They have means nowadays to deal with you when you protest. They will use chemical weapons such as CS gas, right? Such as smoke grenades, flashbangs. They have directed energy weapons like LRADs and so on and so forth. They don't have a problem with you taking your black ass out in the street and getting mad. They can deal with that. They have no problem dealing with that. They don't have a problem with you signing up for a particular political party, whether D or R. No problem whatsoever. You can vote D right down the motherfucking ballot. They ain't got no plex about that. Matter of fact, they encourage it. But the one damn thing that has all of them shook is that you now have a group of American citizens who have aligned under the banner of their heritage and lineage, a tie that can never be broken, regardless of how we live in, what we look like, where we speak like, where we from, what our social economic class in this country is, and so on and so forth. Regardless of what our religion is and whatever, a tie that can never be severed is the tie of our shared heritage and lineage. You now have a group of those individuals, a new tribe, who are standing up and asking questions, and it has the whole fucking system in an uproar. People we would never even fucking hear from all of a sudden got something to say about what it is that we talking about and what we doing. Immigrant bastards, these jumped up Johnny come latelys, these traitorous, mercenary bastards who have no fucking interest in this country, who have not contributed a goddamn thing to this country. Because immigrants didn't build this country, slaves did. There would be no immigrants here if it were not for the victims of enslavement and their descendants. I don't give a fuck that your grandfather came from motherfucking, from Prussia in 1909 so he could have an opportunity to grow and live. He only has that opportunity to grow and live. And you only have that opportunity to grow and live because my ancestors had the choice to serve or die. Your motherfucking ancestor didn't build this country. This country was built before they showed they punk ass up on these shores. The very White House in which your ancestor, when he finally got naturalization, the ability to cast a ballot, to vote for a president to sit in there, was built by my motherfucking ancestors. And the whole of the city of Washington, D.C., the layout, the beautiful architecture was all done with slave labor, funded by taxation and money off of financial instruments and derivatives and flesh. Black flesh. And all of that was in play long before your ancestor could even say America or the equivalent of it in his language. You tell us, you immigrant bastards, you traitorous mercenary fuckers, to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps. Good advice. Perhaps you and your ancestors should have followed it. You ran from Ireland because of your potato famines and the onslaught of the motherfucking English. You was the niggers in Ireland. Did you fight? Did you pull yourself up by your bootstraps? You came over here and served as overseers. You served as transportation operators. You served as bosun's mates and midshipmen for transports of human flesh and the products thereof. You didn't pull yourself up by your motherfucking bootstraps. You came over here because of wars in Prussia and Austria-Hungary, World War I, and German wars of expansion. Some of you were Anabaptists looking for religious freedom like Mennonites, like Amish. Did you fight? Did you go to Bismarck and the Prussian authorities and archdukes and counts and all that shit and rebel against the motherfucking feudalist system that had you and your people as peons for hundreds of years? Nope. You came here and you put together a wagon with your family in the back and headed west, young man, to get an entire section of land basically given to your ass. That's what you did. You didn't pull yourself up by your bootstraps. You were handed the keys to the motherfucking kingdom. You were given the goose that lays the golden motherfucking eggs. You who were trained in medicine in Nigeria. You didn't go out into the hinterlands in Nigeria where Boko Haram holds sway and fight against the ignorance, the degradation, and the regression of your people back to some primitive ass mean while providing health care and services to your own fucking people. No, what did you do? You stacked up some cheese, bought you a motherfucking plane ticket, and flew your ass over to the motherfucking Golden Mountain, where you now give healthcare tips to rich Beckys for pay. You didn't pull up your motherfucking self by your bootstraps. You traitorous, mercenary bastard. You came over to the land of milk and motherfucking honey built on the blood, sweat, and tears and the backs of your former continental, maybe in some cases, countrymen, tribes people. That's what you did. It wasn't no, oh, I did it all on my own. You jumped on a plane, flew through the heavens, and landed in heaven on earth, where the motherfucking doors were left wide open for you to walk on in. The only thing missing was a St. Peter at the motherfucking gate terminal when you got off. But you got the nerve to tell me and my people that we need to knuckle down, work harder, stop being so lazy. Can't nobody work harder than somebody who done work basically for motherfucking free, you moron. Can't nobody work no harder than ADOS people have. In Mexico, your great-grandfather was a campesino in Oaxaca, working on an hacienda owned by Don Pedro, you know, his patron. Did he organize with the other campesinos and overthrow Don Pedro's ass and split up the land amongst everybody who needed a piece and brought peace and protection to the state of Oaxaca, to his local community? No! He put on his shoes and a motherfucking backpack, grabbed the missus and your 15 children with your Catholic ass, and you walked your ass north across the motherfucking border is what you did. And sure, you might have to pick crops, but you a campesino, you a farmer anyway. You've been picking crops ever since your ass was alive. Meanwhile, your ass work, pick crops 6 months out the year. Then you go back to Mexico where you have satellite television, a home that's paid for, transportation, and the ability to sit on your ass for 6 months watching football and going, goal! Sending remittances back to your native countries is shit. Taking wealth extracted here that my people don't even have fucking access to, and sending it back to your shit. Goal! But you tell us that we just ain't trying hard enough, that we have an allergy to education. Let me share some information with you, family. One of the objections that you hear, and I mentioned this one, it's one of the top 3. was people, Americans got a problem with us getting cut checks. Oh, y'all like that? Goal!
Stop it.
The London football, goal! Y'all ever watch the motherfucking football games on Telemundo? Some wild shit. Let black people have 6 months where they could just sit on their ass, eat motherfucking tostadas, and watch football games. Hell, I'll pick crops for 6 months to have the opportunity to take 6 months off, to have my home paid for, to have my car paid for, to have cable TV that's paid for. Shit. Name me a nigga that wouldn't work they ass off picking motherfucking zucchinis and potatoes and shit for 6 months so they can lay up for 6 months, watch hip hop, love and hip hop, watch HBO. You feel me? Watch your Game of Thrones. Watch the motherfucking NFL. Shit. Nigga, sign me up. My back bad and everything. I'll figure it out. They ain't stopped making ibuprofen and shit. I'm cool. Family, they say cutting us checks is an objection. You know, because giving niggas money, everybody got a motherfucking problem with that. Oh, I see we got our motherfucking Game of Thrones fans up here. Y'all ain't shit. Because I'm waiting for tomorrow, too. Trust me, there's a reason why I took Sundays off. I don't do broadcasts on Sundays. Go Chiefs.
Right.
And go Team Stark. And I don't give a fuck which one of y'all like it. Laugh all you want. You should be boycotting the NFL. For what? Them niggas in the NFL ain't boycotting them checks. So why the fuck should I boycott the NFL? Niggas be on some, y'all be on some weird shit sometimes. I don't understand. I understand. Christopher, thank you. Before I continue my point, I want to address what Christopher said right here. The Mexican government actually is funded to a great extent off of the remittances sent to Mexico by people who work in the United States. But Mexico City is sinking because they pumped out all their motherfucking groundwater. Remember, Mexico City was built on a lake. Teotihuacan, right? Was built on a lake. A fucking wealth of fresh water. And they got 20 million of these motherfuckers because, you know, they religious say they can't wear condoms and shit. So all they doing is fucking and making more goddamn peasants. And pumping out all the goddamn inheritance of fresh water underground. Some places in Mexico City has sank as far as damn nearly 13 meters. That breaks down to nearly, what, 40 some odd feet? 40, yeah, like 42, 43 feet? You dig? But they gonna try to tell us that we fucked up. Here you got a country where all you had to do to be living in peace, harmony, and prosperity today was overthrow them motherfuckers who called themselves your patrons and whoop their motherfucking ass and make them go out there and pick crops alongside your ass. And you didn't even have enough motherfucking cojones, huevos, to do that. You pussy motherfuckers. It wouldn't even have been that goddamn hard to like get peace, happiness, prosperity, and freedom in Mexico, and y'all couldn't even fucking do that right. They got the nerve to come here and criticize us. Please. Please. I fucking can't. Y'all don't get me started because they already think I'm anti-immigrant and all this other shit. You know what I'm saying? Whatever. Fuck them. Pussy ass, weak ass, soft ass, jelly back, bitch made, hoe cake ass motherfucker.
Okay.
At any rate, they say cutting us checks is just not feasible. So they offer these other things in lieu of cutting the check. What up, Eric? They offer these other things in lieu of actually providing us with the capital, the remuneration needed for us to reach out in America and grab what we need. They say things like, well, I'll support universal education, free education for all ADOS people, right? From pre-K through postdoc, right? They say, well, I'm down with, like, giving medical care, free medical care to all ADOS people. Not a single doctor bill, right? Right? You've heard that. Family, raise your hand in the chat. Hit a 1 in the chat if you heard a variation on these different things that I'm talking about. Right? They'll say something like, well, why can't we give ADOS people interest-free loans to start their own businesses and shit? Right? I'm okay with giving them interest-free loans, right? We loan you the money, you just pay back what we loaned you, nothing more, nothing less, to get capitalized to start your own enterprises and businesses, right? Okay? You've heard variations on these themes, you dig? Let me explain something to you, ADOS folk and other interested parties, right? So if I have white Americans and other Americans here in the chat, welcome. I hope you stay a while. You are welcome. Let's look at this, shall we? Education. Free education for ADOS people. Damn. That's dope. Free education. We don't have to pay no tuition, no book fees, no lab fees, right? No suck the dick of the registrar fees, because, they got all these goddamn fees for college and shit like that. All that's out the window, right? We want to do research, shit like that. We get money and research, money and all that, right? Cool. So education, absolutely free. Sounds dope. Now, let's look at the data. If you read, and by the way, links in the description again to the report, What We Get Wrong About the Racial Wealth Gap, you will find something very interesting. That black people with the equivalent educational attainment to every other ethnicity, specifically whites, but pretty much across the board for every other ethnicity, still lag in income. For every dollar a white male makes, black women make about 67 cents. Now, I would give a number about black males, but there's a problem. Because whatever number I give about black males is going to be flawed in that these numbers don't count the brothers and, the brothers that are, and I would say sisters, okay? But there's not that many sisters really in prison. There's some. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying black women don't go to jail and don't go to prison. They do. But nowhere near the numbers of black men. They don't take into account the labor of prisoners in these numbers. So it artificially inflates the amount that I would give for black males. Because if we actually accounted for the labor that was being done by black males in prison, in correctional confinement, we don't even come close to what black women make. And that's just real. I'm sorry. You can be one of these feminist motherfuckers and be in your feelings about that, or you can accept the data and understand it and be willing to fight to do something about it. Your brothers don't make as much as you do. That hasn't been the case actually for quite some time, where we've made more money than black women do. So even with equal educational attainment, black folk are not getting equal income representation in the job market. They also are not being selected for jobs at the same rate. So, in other words, there is no universal unemployment number. When you take and break it down across ethnic groups, black unemployment at every point, at every level, is consistently, officially double that of white folks. Right? Double. So you and Becky Ann go to college, right? Y'all both study to become social workers. A worthy goal. I'm not one of these motherfucking, STEM elitists that act like everybody got to know how to code if they go to school. That's bullshit. Education should be sought as an end in and of itself, not just to make money for somebody. Okay? But I digress. So you and Becky Ann, sister, go to school. Both of you graduate magna cum laude, right? With honors, with high honors. Okay? So you did very well in school. Both of you gain employment. Whether it's working for a nonprofit agency or you work for some state entity that deals with social welfare matters, right? Entitlements or whatever. Maybe, just to give you a case in point, y'all both end up working for the Social Security Administration, okay? You're social workers and you work for the Social Security Administration, okay? Now track your progress from that point. You both educated in the same school, same environment, graduated with the same educational attainments, magna cum laude, right? You were the best of the best, right? You did the damn thing in school, okay? And you both were employed at the same time with the Social Security Administration. 5 years later, Becky Ann is now a supervisor, but you still talking to, regular folk every day, in the trenches. Another 3 years pass, and she's now like a regional supervisor. You still in the trenches. She's gotten raise after raise after raise, right? She's gone up general service levels. I don't know if they use that in the SSA, but I believe they do. GS pay scale. So she's gone up. You've gotten steps, right? My mother used to work for the IRS. I understand the general schedule, right? So you might be a GS3, step 4. So you get some pay raises through those steps, but you don't get the big pay raises you get when you go up GS levels. But she started off as a GS3. Now, as your soup, she's a GS6. Then she becomes like a regional supervisor. Now she's a GS13. Both of you, by the way, same educational attainment, same everything. You were exactly the same. You went to the same school, took the same programs, performed the same in every class, graduated with the same educational attainment, and yet, strangely enough, Becky Ann is doing better than you. Because education cannot protect you from discrimination. See, family, they have no problem with offering us these piecemeal reparational things, right? Free education, right? Because they know that regardless of education, they can still maintain the status quo as it is, right? There's no real transfer of wealth involved in education, right? So they pay for you to go to school. They've got programs out there right now that are looking to try to frame it to where everybody can go to school for free. So it's not like if they did this for you, it'd be any great shakes. Meanwhile, they can still deny you opportunities in the job market, and it doesn't take into account the fact that you already started off in the hole. Because I'll be honest with you, if you look at the data, Becky Ann was able to get into school because her parents had the money saved up in the equity in her house. So they were able to borrow the money to pay for Becky Ann's education. So she was able to be a, Kappa Alpha Psi and go to the parties and not, do whatever, have fun throughout college. You were working, work study, depending on your Pell Grants and college loans. So when Becky Ann graduated, even though she had the same educational attainment as you, she started off already to the good because she didn't have the debt you have. Also, Becky Ann comes from an environment where every individual in her family has access to some degree of capital and wealth, right? So when Becky Ann gets to be a GS6 and a GS13, she's not having to sustain a whole fucking family with her single success. Becky Ann doesn't have to be her family's fucking reparations. Let's say that they put their gaze upon you, okay? And they said, holy shit, this woman is a fantastic social worker. Let's make her the regional supervisor of the whole area for SSA. And you get a promotion. Bump up. GS13. You ballin'. GS13 is no joke. That's a pretty good damn annual salary. Well, guess what? Your mama and them is still broke. Your brother just got out of the joint from doing his second bid. Your sister got 4 kids and she can't feed. Your auntie gave her credit card number to some asshole online who's emptied out her motherfucking bank account. And now you got to help pay her rent. Your come up can't never just be your come up. Your come up now has to support sometimes 1, 2, but sometimes 10, 11, 12, 14, 15 other individuals. You just became a reparations package for a single family, but nothing really for yourself. So how the fuck is education reparations? By the way, am I the only one that noticed that white folks especially, but immigrants are quick to throw out education at us like all black people, all ADOS people are uneducated? Right? It's kind of like in the line when they say shit like criminal justice reform, as if all black people go to jail or have some interaction with the criminal justice system. Like reforming the criminal justice system, while it would disproportionately affect ADOS people in a positive fashion, there's so many of us that never have any negative interactions with law enforcement at all. Never even been to jail. Don't have a record. Some of y'all have never even been pulled over by the motherfucking cops. You don't have any tickets. You don't have any traffic violations, let alone any actual real engagement with criminal confinement or the criminal justice system. So how is it that reforming an obviously unjust criminal justice system that, yes, does disproportionately affect us, how is that reparations for all of us? I'll wait. They offer these piecemeal things. They say, okay, we know the debt is due. So we're not arguing that we shouldn't pay something. But to give y'all money, nobody gives me money, right? Y'all just need more insert whatever liberal or conservative thing of the day here, right? Because conservatives will say, well, you know what? Wouldn't it be dope, reparationally speaking, if we were just to give you guys all interest-free loans to start your own businesses and so on and so forth? Right? So that black people can hire other black people and you guys can have an opportunity to grow a business and become, a part of the capitalist system. Wouldn't that be awesome? Let's look at that, shall we? The data shows that the average small business is defunct within its first 5 years, meaning you start a business today. The vast majority of businesses that are started today, April 13th, 5 years from today, will be defunct, meaning they will be closed, shut down, right? No longer operating. Okay? That's factual. Do the numbers, right? Check it yourself. Okay? Now, what is the number one reason why these businesses are defunct? Let me see something in the chat. What do y'all think? What's the number one reason that a new business goes defunct, right? It closes its doors. Miss Denny said lack of money. What would some of all the rest of you say? What do you say? What's the number one reason why a business started off, incorporated, had everything right, 5 years later, be closed? What would be the number one reason why it be closed? I'm seeing a trend here, right? Lack of capital, lack of money, capital are not enough. Facts. They go broke. They are undercapitalized. Okay? Undercapitalized. Now, let me ask you a question, if I may. So, these people posit that through interest-free loans, that you will be given enough capital to sustain yourself to the point where you're in the black, right? Where you're profitable. Okay. Now, never mind the fact that no one ever throws out any hard numbers on shit, right? And of course that makes sense. Without a business plan, without projected profit loss statements and so on and so forth, it's hard to give a number, right? As to what would constitute adequate capitalization for any particular business. But on top of that, they're offering you startup capital to get started, right? According to this reparational program. But you notice they never guarantee that they'll continue to give you the capital to keep the doors open. See, understand something, family. You can have access to all the capital in the world, but you are truly at the whims of the market. And it's not as if when they institute this program, like let's say that the government passed the interest-free loan program tomorrow for the American descendants of slaves. It is not as if they're going to take Amazon and decapitalize it to do that. They're not going to take Microsoft and bust it up, right? Now, they're not going to take any of these currently existing conglomerates that you couldn't possibly hold a fucking candle to no matter how much capital they gave your ass, and compete with them. Right? There's no way that you're going to compete with Bezos. I don't give a fuck how much. The government can't fund you to the tune of what it would take to be able to compete with Jeff Bezos, with Elon Musk. Right? With motherfucking Tim Cook. You dig? Pick your field. The government would never say to you, oh, let's see here. Apple has a market cap of around $613 billion. We'll go ahead and hook you up with like 600 billion per annum until you get in the black. Sound good? Hell no. The government ain't gonna do that for you. They might not have a problem with you getting a loan of, say, a couple 10,000, 20,000 to open you up a chain of hot dog stands. Assuming motherfuckers want to eat hot dogs and all, right? They might fund you with some money to open up your little screen printing shop to do them shirts and you know, and fitteds that you always wanted to do and shit. You did. Right? It might even be one of you brothers and sisters out there that always wanted to own your own publishing house. Right? So they might fund you to the tune of $50,000 to be able to sign your first author and start to get a book out there. But if your ass, for whatever reason, is not successful, guess what? Whether that loan has interest or not, you still owe it. You still owe that bread. Because remember, this wasn't no grants in aid. This wasn't the motherfucker saying, you know what? We just gonna go ahead and give y'all 50. Good luck. Right? They loaned you that money. Meaning you're on the hook for that money. And by the way, isn't it interesting that the program they suggest, these conservative, hyper-capitalist bastards, is supposed to be funded by the government, but they argue that the government doesn't have a role in business, right? So no regulation, no corporate welfare, this, that, and the third, right? So they want corporate welfare for you, in a sense, while being able to run against that and argue against that. Make that make sense to me. I mean, talk to me like I'm 3. You dig? How am I supposed to trust that people who have the motto of drowning, of shrinking the government to the point where you can drown it in a bathtub, is going to support me and my new business? Because I've quit my job, I'm working full time, so on and so forth, you dig, to try to build this business, that I can count on that government support being forthcoming until at such time as I'm fully capitalized and able to operate at a profit, if ever. Remember, family, ask questions. Okay, so you think that we should get interest-free loans? Great. How long are you willing to fund us for? Is it until we get into the black? And if so, what's the time frame on that? Should we be in the black within 5 years, 7 years, 1 year, 10 years, etc., right? Because remember, ADOS family, if you know nothing else about this goddamned country, understand this: the devil is always in the details. When you start to ask these bastards questions, all of a sudden they get to going, they mouth sound like an engine with the stuttering. Family, these piecemeal ideas, right? These piecemeal ideas are only put forward to do one thing: to get you to settle. Right? This is why Andrew Yang can talk about a motherfucking UBI, which, by the way, is a great motherfucking idea. But niggas bite all over it. You mean to tell me you gonna give me $1,000 a month just for being alive? And I ain't gotta work or nothing for it? Extrapolate that. Like, do some fucking math. $1,000 a month is $12,000 a year. What nigga you know can live off of $12,000 a year? Even one. One black person. And you got families. By the way, in order to fund his UBI, over time, entitlement programs such as WIC, food stamps, TANF, Section 8, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, all of that goes away. Bet you didn't know that though, did you? So UBI is dope. Like Starman said, UBI is dope. But it ain't reparations. But boy, they love to see black folk going, ooh, UBI, man, they gonna give us free money, bruh. They love that. Cause it's like the motherfucking, it's like your PD coming in with a plea deal from the prosecution that says that you only got to do 6 months and do 6 months paper rather than the 5 years you're facing. Well, you like only 6 months in the county? That sounds like a pretty good deal. Sure in the hell don't want to do 5. 5 of the damnedest. They want you to settle. That's all it is. It's an opportunity to settle the debt that you know is owed. Right? Yeah. And yeah, what's up said your descendants can't inherit them plea deals. Facts. And Ease acts, no. UBIs would not be taxable. That would defeat the purpose of a UBI distribution. Seriously, I'm not trying to be a jerk or ass here. UBIs are not taxable, right? Because the government is funding the UBI through taxation of businesses and other shit, right? So yeah. I'm gonna go ahead and start to wrap this up, family. What I want to say is this. This debt that's owed, we aims to collect. We don't need no programs. We don't need more education. Education is great. Black people should get education like every other American should get it. Right? You want to offer free health care? We'll take care. We'll take advantage of that. Bernie gets into power and he wants to offer free health care or whatever. Cool. I'll definitely go to the doctor for free. Right? They want to offer free, college education and wipe away my motherfucking student loans. I'm with that. But that ain't reparations. That ain't the return of the diminished and lost value of my ancestors and my own labor. That isn't punishment and disincentivization of negative and deleterious behaviors against our people. And that ain't the return of the unjust enrichment. Family, no matter who's coming at you with whatever objection, if their objection doesn't address those 3 things, they ain't saying nothing. Feel free to laugh their ass the fuck out of the room because you are now the smartest person at the table. You are now the smartest person in the room. Ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to be labeled. Don't be afraid to be labeled radical. Don't be afraid to be labeled unrealistic. And most importantly, don't overmuch concern yourself with what the average American thinks. How many Americans you think supported the Civil Rights Bill back in 1964 when it got passed? 38%, maybe. America ain't gonna never be on board with you getting your due. If you think that these politicians are making a valid argument that they can't push full-throated, unabashed, unapologetic support for your reparations because the American people won't co-sign it? Fuck them. The American people will never co-sign anything that benefits just you. They never have, and they never will. Yet shit gets done, strangely enough. This business is conducted with two people, ADOS people and their government. We are petitioning our government for a redress of specific grievances. It doesn't matter what any other motherfucking American thinks. Unless they want to overthrow the American government, they don't have shit to say on it. Truth be told, y'all spend a lot of time in debate with motherfuckers you don't need to be debating. If you coming at politicians, that makes sense. James Clyburn should be getting his lunch ate everywhere the fuck he go. The congressional black carcasses need to be shamed as the carpet-bagging traitors they are, everywhere the fuck they go. If you all for going in on these government politicians who you would think that have your back and your interests at heart, but don't, have at it, Hoss. But why you arguing with Joe White Man, a troll on Twitter? He ain't gonna have a say in it no way. And no matter what, he is never gonna co-sign off on it. If you gave him a vote, he would say, fuck them niggas. You know how you know? Because he has had a vote. He has voted with his dollars. He's voted with his ballot to put politicians in play to make sure that you don't get your due. You don't have to have no more debate with these motherfuckers. America ain't gonna never co-sign you getting the restoration, remediation, and repair that is due you. So fuck them. Why you wasting your time arguing with these motherfuckers, man? Why you wasting your time? Why you concerned about... Look, the only thing I'm concerned about Bernie Sanders talking about is divisive is because I want a chance to put my foot in his political ass. Divisive, huh? I'm gonna divide your two butt cheeks and insert my ADOS foot right in the crack of your ass. Otherwise, if Bernie Sanders was just some private citizen, I wouldn't give a fuck what Bernie Sanders got to think about reparations. I only care about what Sheila Jackson Lee got to say about reparations because she is a representative of the government that's supposed to claim to represent me. So I have a specific issue that I'm demanding redress from that bitch. If she was just Sheila Jackson Lee, the butter biscuit eating, buck dancing ass head of A&R for some record company, I wouldn't give a fuck about what that bitch had to say about my due. You gotta stop wasting your time, family. You got bigger fish to fry. Sure, go out and educate your other ADOS brothers and sisters on the need to align with us during this transformational moment, on the need to cleave to their heritage and their lineage, to back each other's play, to join together in unison for the greatest transformational moment this country will ever see. That's your job. Your job ain't to debate some punk-ass immigrant, some jumped-up Johnny-come-lately, wannabe motherfucking traitorous mercenary bastard from someplace else. Your job ain't to be sitting there arguing and debating with them. Fuck them. Your job is to go get this bag. My job and your job from today moving forward, family, is to not give two mad fucks about anybody who ain't government or us in this matter. Your job is to educate your people and to go and get the bag. It is time for us to get our due. It is time for them to cut the check. And I don't give a fuck what Bagaram Vladikonomits has to say about it. Who the fuck is he? I don't give a fuck what Billy Joe Bob has to say about it. Who the fuck is he? Oh, Billy Joe Bob, are you a congressman? No. Are you a senator? No. Oh, you sit in the judiciary? No. Then who the fuck are you? Who the fuck are you? Family, again, if I left you something that edifies, that helps you in your personal advocacy, a tip would be appreciated. It's not required, but definitely appreciated. Please hit one of the links, mods. If you'd like to share the links with the family, you can use Streamlabs. You can use my PayPal, or if you do Cash App, you can use Cash App. If you would rather get some tangibles in return for your support, I do have merchandise available, right? Click the link in the description field. You can purchase a cup, you can purchase a shirt, and all of that goes to support my channel. I also have links to books on Amazon, like Slavery by Another Name, The Color of Law, and other books with information to help you strengthen your advocacy. And to purchase through those links, do support my channel, right? And would be greatly appreciated. Family, thank you so much for joining your man for Sucka-Free Saturday. And as always, I want to wish you all love, peace, prosperity, and power, real power to our people.